welcome again. Looking forward to this panel, not only because of the panelists who have deep experience in how sustainable travel as a brand has got built, but also the audience, among which are many hotel pioneers who have their own little story. So we do want to keep this session interactive once the panelists set the stage for the. So I'll do a quick introduction of the panelists. We have Loveleen Sagar. He's a veteran of India's inbound travel industry with over 25 years of experience in curating high-end experiential journeys across a subcontinent. As the EVP at Distant Frontiers, a niche destination DMC, specializing in bespoke travel for international visitors, she has been instrumental, this is important, in integrating sustainability into itinerary design, supplier partnerships, and traveler engagement. Shoba mentioned a very interesting anecdote during COVID. She sent a 400-question survey to all the hoteliers and all the vendors to get feedback, and she got a response of almost 70%. Her leadership has helped position the transition of a brand like Sita, which is known for mass travel, but now with a strong sustainability focus. We also have Daleep Akoi, who's the founder of the Jim's Jungle Retreat. Daleep is a conservationist and an eco-hospitality pioneer who founded the Jim's Jungle Retreat, a wildlife lodge set at the southern edge of the Corbett Tiger Reserve. A former corporate executive turned environmental entrepreneur, Daleep transformed degraded farmland into a thriving biodiversity corridor, proving that tourism can regenerate and deplete ecosystems. His retreat is internationally recognized for its biophilic design, conservation-driven operations, and deep local community partnership. And also, Daleep is continuing a legacy of his father, who had visited Corbett in the 1960s. And that legacy is what he continued. We also have McGrath, who's the regional manager, India and Bhutan, of the Six Senses Hotels, Resorts, and Spa. He's a global hospitality leader with over 20 years of experience managing luxury properties across Asia, Middle East, and Australia. As the regional GM of Six Senses in India, he oversees India and Bhutan, and including the operations and the strategic development of some of the most environmentally conscious resorts in South Asia. Under his stewardship, Six Senses properties have become a model for regenerative hospitality, combining wellness, culture, heritage, and environmental responsibility. And he's really a passionate advocate of aligning sustainability. He mentioned to us when we, in a short huddle, that Six Senses has released a 82-point sustainability index, a document about 2 weeks ago. And last, we have Shoba Mohan, who's the founder and CEO of Rare India, whose journey I have seen for the last 20 years, and from 2004, and where she kind of set to bring a portfolio of these kind of hoteliers and get the whole ecosystem together. And she's got so many stories to say, and over the last 10, 12 years, one of her passion has been kind of the rare touchstones, 11-point rare touchstones, which she's evangelizing across the ecosystem. And with that as the context, I'm the stand-in. I'm not Shoiti Banerjee, as you can evidently see. So I will be moderating the session. So I wanted to start with Aaron. You spoke about the 82 points. Can you narrate the 82 points in 5 minutes?
I think this might be working. Are we working? Can you hear me? Yeah. Everybody can hear me okay? Okay. So yeah, thank you for the great introduction, and look, it's just a pleasure to be here with everybody today. It's always wonderful to be in and amongst a group of like-minded hospitality professionals, and it's a real pleasure to be here and to speak to you today. So what's being referred to is the Six Senses Zero Waste Playbook that was just recently released. It's an 82-point playbook and counting, where we haven't stopped there. We're still working through it, but it's an open source playbook which we've put out into the market now, and we really hope that anyone and everybody who's interested in sustainability and trying to reduce waste might be interested in picking a copy of that up. It is available online from the Six Senses website. I'll also post that out maybe on my LinkedIn profile as well, and anyone who's interested in picking that up, you're welcome to. And it's just a fabulous collection of methodology that we've used at Six Senses over the last going on 20 years now in reducing waste in our hotel operations. And we've released that playbook in the hope that other hotels and businesses will pick that up and share that sustainability journey with us. So thanks for highlighting that.
Daleep, why don't you talk about some specific aspects that you have seen which have actually helped? One of the important aspects that we want to cover is the brand is only as valuable as in the eyes of the consumer or the traveler. So we can talk about sustainability, but if the traveler doesn't see value in it. So how have you seen that transition? Can you talk about that journey?
Thanks, Ram. Thank you for organizing this conversation. I think it's important to have it, especially at this time in one's evolution of hospitality in this country, where we're seeing a lot of things happening with the pressures of growth, and tourism is an important factor for the economy in this country, but how it's perceived and how it's done, these are the questions that need to be understood. And Aaron, to your point of releasing those 82 guidelines, so to speak, for other people to understand how to consume consciously. It's extremely important because when I started off, I came back from my studies and working experience in New York. And my father had started this camp in Corbett. He'd been coming to it since he was a 5-year-old child. And he introduced it to us. We were coming to Corbett since we were 2 years old. And it was a lovely, there were lovely memories made, great relationships formed, a great understanding of what a forest means and how important it is to hold on to these jungles. Even today, in fact, like sometimes I speak to people and say, you know, the rivers come from a forest. And they're like, really? How does that happen? There is a lot of, you know, misunderstanding or not enough understanding. So when you bring out sustainability measures, what it does for you is it sort of allows you to also then gives you permission, so to speak, to say that, you know, I don't have to give little shampoo bottles because that's the norm in the industry. There are a lot of things that one sort of learns from others, but there are a lot of things that one understands and explores oneself. The most important thing, I think, is intent. What are you putting yourself out there for? So our intent has always been to share knowledge. It's to find a way to create an ecosystem where you're being sustainable, but you're also being able to share that information with people who are coming and visiting with you. So what we did 20 years ago, the first thing is like we started rewilding. So we recreated a forest with trees that are native to the area. And what that's done today, it's created several little ecosystems and habitats, micro-habitats. And we're studying that now, and we're able to offer our guests so much learning about bees and the beehives, about termites. And this allows people to connect to nature in a way that they wouldn't have sitting watching television or just listening to a lecture. You get absorbed into the whole idea of what a forest is. And then when you connect to it, you figure out that, oh, I have to save it. Because there is so much to learn from this forest.
And is it supporting your business growth?
Is it supporting our business growth? I think it's an interesting question. I think when we were thinking about how to get the communication out, the tiger always stood out as a very sexy beast. You know, everybody's coming to wildlife parks to see the tiger because it was something that is beautiful to watch. You know, but what is the tiger? Like, what does it do for a forest? The tiger is supported by a jungle. The tiger supports the jungle. So they're all interconnected. If you understand that, then you can make the claim, seek the tiger, find the jungle, which is what our tagline is. It's to share that information with people and make them understand that, yes, you're coming to see a beautiful beast, but you're going to come away learning about a jungle. And that slowly has helped us with agents, with guests. We have guests now who come back to us. We have about 25% people who come back to us every year. And they've seen the forest grow. And they're extremely, they're connected to it. And that's why they keep coming back.
Loveleen, you are sitting at the kind of intersection of large number of suppliers and the customers, not the end consumer, but maybe, does the proposition, have you seen the proposition change that travel branding, sustainable, is supporting business growth? Are you seeing consumer traction? Are you seeing traveler coming to you with that feedback that I want to do climate-friendly itineraries?
So, Ram, first of all, thank you for this conversation. I think these conversations are very important, especially now, because we have only one Earth and there's only one planet. And I think people realize that, and whether you're consuming travel or you're consuming anything else, people realize that overconsumption is going to destroy this planet. So, yes, definitely more and more people are very aware of how they travel and how they consume. You'd be surprised to know that out of all the feedback, end customer feedback that we receive, 25% of people comment on sustainability. They comment on plastic bottles in a hotel. They'd comment on a plunge pool in the desert where they have seen women carrying water over their heads where they don't have water, running water in their homes, but there are swimming pools. So people observe these anomalies. So yes, people are very aware and consumers are aware.
Shoba, in your experience working with this portfolio of so many properties, actually, I'll give you the mic, we'll exchange.
Saving energy.
In your experience working with this portfolio of properties, in line with the topic, can you give specific examples of how you've seen sustainable travel initiatives, which has resulted in it becoming the value proposition for the experience and for increasing the business?
Thanks, Ram, and thank you everyone on the panel for agreeing to do this. So, among the people that we have under the community, one of the things I've seen is consistency in what they're putting out. That has helped a lot. So somebody, like Daleep said, this seek the tigers, find the jungle, is a litany in my head. And that's what we it not only changed us, it also helped us put this forward. So consistency of branding and the brand messaging. And he started in 2010. It was not even a thing, right? I mean, it was not such a hugely proclaimed thing. So consistency in that brand proposition or the brand ideology was, I think, something that was very, very strong. And the second is putting it out all the time. It didn't matter whether it was B2B or it was B2C, and putting it out there again and again and again and again, that also helped. The third thing are personal changes to your own lifestyle. I mean, you can't be leading an extremely unsustainable lifestyle and go ahead and start to talk about this. Among the hotels that we have and the lodge owners, some of them have done this completely unaware of what they are doing, and that is the beauty. One is being unaware that what they were doing is eventually going to start becoming, like even today they don't come out and say, and Pooja last year pointed out that it was called sustainability hushing or green hushing. It was not something that they would talk about, like Shapura Bagh's water story, Ramatra Fort's rewilding story. It's only now that, after a long time, even now Ravi doesn't talk about it so much, but it is something that they have done because it felt right and they had to do it. It became a part of their design plan. So that unconscious way of promoting things, and it, I think that was very good, because that gave me an opportunity to talk about things that they wouldn't talk about. While they talked about 9-inch snoozer mattresses and large ceilings and air conditioning and things like that, we were talking these stories. So over a period of time, everybody who joined in, how it helped us was to have 2 people like that or 10 people like that. Slowly, people who were thinking and doing things like that, they kind of started to join the group. So even today, when we put something out and we say, okay, we want to do this, or we want to go here and we want to organize this event or something like that, it is not on the basis of who's coming, what they're doing. It is on what we are wanting to present to the audience. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And I'll iron one important, because you're in a sense, because you're the largest experiential, sustainable brand, perhaps in the planet, you're a proxy for how the category is growing. And so you have the largest feedback of customers or travelers. How have you seen that evolve in terms of, that becoming the de facto customer or traveler?
Sure. So look, I'd have to say in a word, it's been phenomenal. And so Six Senses is a brand that's been present now for about 20 years. We started off from very humble beginnings, but we've always been a company where sustainability and wellness were at the heart of what we do. They are our core values at the end of the day, along with a very deep commitment to experiential travel. And so those 3 things combine very well. What we've found over the years is that there has been a growing at pace demand for guests to enjoy travel consciously and to enjoy travel that is done in a way that does positively impact both our environment, which is an important part of sustainability, of course, but also the communities in which we operate in. So that's been incredibly important for us. And I think, there's a couple of things that maybe people think are at odds when it comes to sustainability and luxury travel. And perhaps the first is just that. Can luxury travel truly be sustainable? And I think the answer to that is a resounding yes. I think, and Six Senses does an exemplary job, if I do say so myself, at demonstrating how a luxury property can be consciously sustainable, both within its hotel operations, but also in terms of giving back to the community. I think the other thing that often gets misunderstood, I think, about sustainability is that there is a cost to it. And, I'd put it to you that there's a cost not to do it. I think, what we've experienced, certainly in the properties that I've personally operated, is that sustainability makes good business sense. We've found that there's been some incredible results that we've achieved, sometimes phenomenal, within our hotel operations, where sustainability has made some real differences. And, I think when we talk about kind of the basics, when we talk about plastic, and plastic is something that we all need to do more about reducing. In our own property at Six Senses Fort Bowara, small property, we've had 710,000 plastic water bottles not put into landfill because we operate our own water bottling plant on site. And that's a real impact. That's an incredible difference. At the same property, we've put 7.5 tonnes into new compost that then goes into our rewilding and homegrown garden initiatives that we do in the property. And so all of these things, whilst being very, very good for the planet, actually also have a tremendous bottom line effect on our business. So, there's some real good that comes with that. And as someone who's been very interested personally in hospitality and hotel sustainability for quite a long time now, maybe 20 years ago there was an expense at getting into sustainability because not many people were doing it. And as we got further down the supply chain, people that we were doing business with weren't maybe doing it as well. And so to try and make a sustainable difference, maybe there was an increased cost. But I'm finding more and more now that's not the case. And I'm finding more and more now that there are like-minded companies that want to do business, and we're actually saving bottom line in doing that. So I think the tide has turned. I think we've reached a tipping point where sustainability, back to your original question, sustainability is now expected and in many cases demanded by our guests. And I think that's certainly true when we're talking about high net worth travellers and when we're talking about luxury travel, who are people who, really look for trying to be able to make a difference, and they have the means to do so.
In your estimate, Loveleen, among all your customers, what percentage of them would you feel value sustainability currently in terms of as a decision-making point for buying their travel experience?
Good question. I haven't really thought about it. I don't know if there's a way I can measure that, but what I can say is that what Aaron was just talking about, how sustainability has actually, it's the two sides of the same coin. If you think about sustainability and consuming consciously, then you're taking action in creating experiences that are local, that are, not eating into the resources as much as, say, a luxury hotel that imports granite from, 350 kilometers away. So for us, what we did, we used a lot of materials that we could find around us. And that helped in educating people about, what they could do as well in their own homes. So another example is you wouldn't plant exotic trees in your backyard if you wanted birds and butterflies and dragonflies to visit your garden. So we would give trees and saplings that we propagated that were natural from the environment and would grow in their backyards and create a little forest for themselves. We get so many birds through the property now, we don't have to send them out on a safari. We have over 200 birds, so now you cut down on petrol that's being used in your gypsies to go out for these safaris. You're doing these beautiful walks that you're understanding intricately and intimately how these ecosystems function. And the guest goes away learning so much more and feels so fulfilled. I had a friend who came visiting. I hadn't met him in years. And he came with his family. Now he has 2 girls who are pretty grown up. And he sent me a message after visiting. He said, Daleep, it was the most soul-enriching experience I've ever had. And I'm not a very expensive property, I don't charge the earth. So the notion that, you have to be extremely uber luxurious, and that's where the people will understand what conscious travel is, I don't think that's entirely true. But the task ahead is actually to see how we can convert more people in the lower segment, which is not uber luxurious, and see how they can too make decisions about traveling to those places that are actually, have the intent. They may not get all the answers right. I'm always learning. But my intent is always to see how I can consume consciously and how I can transfer that knowledge to my guests, how they can consume consciously.
So from our point of view, we see a growing awareness amongst most nationalities, but certain nations, certain nationalities, communities are a bit more aware, a bit more conscious, and a bit more demanding in this aspect. With a lot of travel associations abroad, especially in the UK, are very conscious-minded. They are, it is mandatory almost. Their associations mandate certain criterias. So I think that kind of consciousness has flown into tour operators, and that then percolates down to DMCs and also to the end clients. As societies grow more aware of this aspect, and you see, it works bottom-up sometimes. And in certain cases, it's also top-down, but in this case, the demand has come from the communities, from the societies, from the people who are actually traveling.
if I can just jump on just quickly as well, I'd just like to talk about something that Daleep said, and you said it a couple of times now, and I really like it. It was the word intent. And look, I think that's so important, and I think that's at the heart of what we're talking about. It's at the heart of sustainability. And, you know, there are some companies that are well advanced on their way down the sustainability journey or path. There are others that are just getting started. But I think the most important thing is just that, to get started. And, you know, to get on that journey. And that's, at the end of the day, what sustainability is. You know, it's not a destination. It's a journey, and we're always learning, and we're always trying to do the best we can. And when we reach that point, then we try and do some more. And I think that's very important. The other thing that was said among the group as well, which I think is very important too, I think you'd said, was consistency. And I couldn't agree more. You know, I think sustainability in the tourism segment, maybe in any segment, it is just so important to do it consistently. No matter how little you do, and make sure you've got that intent, we've made a start. But then to continue it consistently creates magical results, really. And I've seen that time and time again, both at Six Senses properties, but also in other areas and parts of the community that I'm lucky enough to live in Rajasthan. And I just think that intent, consistency type approach is just critical.
Absolutely.
Since there are many hoteliers and tour operators here, I wanted some of the hoteliers to share their perspective on the question that does sustainable travel drive business growth? And if anybody can share, love to get your perspective. There are many of you here. I can come with a mic. Does anybody want to share their view? Yeah.
So I can say a little bit, and then maybe others can contribute. So I made some notes before coming. So I think higher perceived brand value is definitely one aspect. And you can also have competitive advantage. There's also increased customer loyalty because there's an emotional, moral angle attached to the entire concept. So word of mouth goes a long way. Also, don't forget, sustainable practices often result in a lot of cost saving. So it helps you with your GOPs. It also helps you gain new partners, new clients, associations, yeah. And talent attraction and retention as well. The Gen Z is very attuned to the concepts of sustainability. And if you want young, energetic people working for you, then yeah, that's a big attraction for them. Then yeah, increasingly, then you collaborate and you increasingly expand your like-minded associations, yeah.
All great points, if I can add to that. What it also does, actually, sustainability, for it to be successful, as you said, it's consistency. But there's also something about financial inclusion that, we hear about it. So how do you include people that work for you, include them? How do you actually include your customers? So we started a new program, which I'm very proud of, and my team's brainchild, about rewarding our guests to come to us. So they're coming to a conservation brand, and they're helping us conserve more.
That's a great idea.
Give them an inclusion, give them a way to also earn points. So they feel that, yes, we've participated in something. So that financial inclusion is a really good
That's a great idea. I think that's a great idea. I want a hotelier. Yeah, please. I'll come here.
Come here, sit here. Manu?
I'm a hotelier from Ladakh. So if you say in Ladakh, say our top 10 hotels, of that, I think 8 of them are the one who branded themselves as a sustainable one. So I would then argue that in terms of substance, they have not much difference between the sustainable and not so one. But in terms of like, because of that branding, so these sustainable ones are really the top 8 and 9 one. So at least in the context of Ladakh, I definitely see that it's working. Thank you.
I'm going to put some people on the spot. Next is Rashmi, Kranganor. I'd love to get your views. Do you think sustainable?
I think it definitely does, especially when it's done very organically. It does make a difference. There's different definitions to sustainable. What do you intend when you say sustainable? One way that I define it is that we're in a small village, and I have 2 businesses. One is, of course, Kranganor, which is the resort on the riverside, and I have a clothing line as well. Between the 2 concerns, I have about 50 people. Now, every single one of them is from the village. To me, that's sustainable, that I'm giving back to the village. Now, I'm part of the village. When something happens in the village, I'm a villager, and I think that is the biggest sustainable practice that I can do. Maybe not that exactly, but say certain other sustainable practices, like something that, I won't say that it is always linear. To be honest, I will say that it's not that X is equal to Y. It doesn't happen all the time. For example, there's this other thing that I do, which I'm passionate about. If you ask me, does it bring in people? Does it increase your branding? I'm not entirely certain. It is that there are certain endangered art forms that are in that place, and I call them over. I get them to come and perform in my place. It's very selfish of me because I love seeing them, and I also think that someone watching will learn something, see something that they've not seen before, and hence, it's a unique experience. Everyone benefits all around. Does that equal more sales, more branding? Yes, definitely. But is that the intention? I don't know. Maybe I'm not certain that it is always X is equal to Y, but I feel like somewhere when you're doing things from the heart, it will actually translate. The person who's sitting on the other side will see the honesty of the intention, and it works that way. But not always X is equal to Y. Maybe it's like it traverses another path, but it gets there eventually. Yes. So the answer is yes.
Ram,
yeah.
Manoj wanted to say something.
Hello, everyone. So, I'm Manoj Sharma. I'm the chief naturalist with Jim's Jungle Retreat, and I have been a naturalist for about 30 years now. What I wanted to say on this topic was, as a naturalist, how do we look at human behavior? Because at the end of the day, we're also part of the same ecosystem. We are the primates. We are the apes who were probably hiding in a corner somewhere in Africa and then went on to conquer the planet. So what happens? What is the primate behavior? What distinguishes primate from any other creature on the planet? It is the ability to observe and imitate. So what we try to do, everybody understands sustainability, but we have...
And I think that is the point, like he spoke about Ladakh.
Yeah.
That was a pure case study. What Six Senses has done. What he's talking about, how the transition in the last 5 years, now travelers are wanting that. I think that zone is where we want to get to, right? So please, I think you wanted to say something.
I just have a quick point. I'm also from Ladakh, and I run a boutique stay in Leh town. I absolutely agree that sustainable travel branding will always give you that competitive edge when it comes to business growth. But we must think about whether business growth is really the reason why we want to be sustainable businesses. We are all here, the top travel representatives are in this room. We must realize that all of us together, collectively, the impact that tourism can bring about, not just on the environment, but also on local communities. And knowing that indigenous practices and traditional knowledge systems are fading away, can tourism really become that driving force to bring about that change? And I think that should be the intent. And to me, sustainability is a byproduct of those small decisions that you make on a daily basis for yourself and for your business. Thank you.
Well, she's
Yeah.
taken the philosophical to another level.
Yeah, and I completely agree with it. But I must tell you, as a marketing person running a business, taking these stories out in there, ultimately you're measured by the number of room nights that you bring in, right? So the point behind this whole conversation was that balance, that fine balance. If you are sustainable and doing everything, but you're not able to drive in businesses to there, as somebody who's, I mean, even a travel company, you know, you can go and keep asking them things, but eventually you don't show numbers, you know. So it's kind of a, like, you know, there's a tightrope walk, but it is essential that all of this should, you know, I mean, on one side, of course, like Aaron said, it actually lowers some costs, right? I mean, all of this, even eventually your bills, electricity bills, all of them, and that's something a lot of people talk about, but does it drive business growth? Is it possible to drive your businesses with the values of sustainability? And I think yes, because there's a huge shift in consciousness where this is concerned. People keep asking me, do you think it's a trend? I don't think sustainability is a trend. You shouldn't talk about sustainability as a trend. Sustainability is the need of the hour. How it came into our lives, you know, is when they started talking about in schools. And 15 years, 20 years ago, Sri Ram School put it into their curriculum saying no plastic, say no to crackers. It kind of became a mantra. My thing is that despite all of this, you still do this business and keep making the everyday changes that you want, and pioneering hotels actually lay the touchstone. They kind of become the blueprint for how a good lodge or a hotel can run. And I've seen this. A good lodge, when it opens in a particular landscape, if they've done 10 good things and they kind of set up the landscape for it, or they set up the design for it, the second hotel coming there, they cannot move very far away from that idea. So that is what I meant for business growth, not only for the hotel as in terms of booking and room nights. What does it do to that environment? What does that do to the landscape? What does it do as a pioneering project for rest of the team to follow? Imagine Ladakh. If everybody said, we want to do it just the way Dolkar is doing it, I mean, it changes the entire scenario. But for you, it might not be. But globally, on a completely, you know, even platform, people need to make money. And it's a hard lesson I learned. I used to think, why do they want money? All the time they've been wanting. I mean, why do they want rooms, a room night? They did, okay. And you know, I've seen this happening. Nobody in Rajasthan wanted room nights in the summer. They want room nights in summer. They come and tell me, Shoba, we didn't have room night. We don't have any bookings in May and June. They wouldn't even want room bookings in May and June. But today, because of, you know, various things and because of the domestic market, they do want those room nights. And for that, you know, we have to do, and you will also see eventually, if you don't touch a certain this thing, you know, ultimately if that has to go back to the community, you still have to make that kind of money.
So the point is, make a point. So the point is a fine balance, really, yes. Shoba. It has to be a fine balance. Over-tourism is a reality, and I can understand why Ladakh is so passionate about it, because 3 idiots ruined Ladakh. I'm sorry, but they were not really, okay. So in some sense, the over-tourism can actually kill a destination. So one has to make a conscious choice of not going over capacity in a destination. So one must understand as a travel operator, as a tour operator, what is the capacity of a destination and not go beyond that. So over-tourism is what we have to be mindful of and be conscious of the capacity of a destination.
Yeah. If I can add, I mean, Corbett Tiger Reserve is a great example to illustrate that point. It was the first tiger reserve, the first national park established in India, in actually Asia, all of Asia, 1936. Project Tiger was launched from then, 1972. The reason why we have tiger tourism in India today is because of that, you know, the launching of Project Tiger in Corbett Tiger Reserve. But what they managed to do with it, with the destination, it became a wedding destination. And people like me who are, you know, talking about sustainability 20 years ago, trying to create a forest and telling people to come and connect to the jungle, we were drowned out. And each call we got, do you do disco DJ? Do you do rain dances? I'm like, no, we don't even have TVs. Don't even think about it. So consistently, we stayed on that message. We carried on doing what we were doing. And, you know, I can just say that our room nights have increased over the years. We do have a retention of over 25% of our guests coming back to us, which is a great number. Um, they, in fact, I won't say who, but like some businesses have shifted away from some of the hotels because everybody along that corridor, along the Kosi River, are doing, you know, weddings and DJs. So the guests that came for birding or came for a wilderness experience, they're telling their agent, please don't send us there. It's dead. So my task is now, guys, we're here in Corbett. It's a beautiful park. It has so much to offer. And we are there doing it with the right intent. So don't drown me out. I need to survive, and I need to thrive. So I can do more of it, and I become the example.
I think that's the most important. So I want to throw it open for any questions from the audience. Last 5-10 minutes. Yeah. I was going to put you on the spot, but...
I just wanted to say thank you for holding this session, because it's for little hotels like us that are doing it out of intent. I mean, we hired from the community because they do a far better job than any hotel trained graduate, and our entire hotel is run by the community. But we didn't do it because we thought we were sustainable. We did it because our intention was to be the best product in the region, and the local community did it best, right? We have, I think, but our biggest weakness and my biggest fault or weakness or whatever it is, and I want to say this to anyone in our situation who is small and very passionately owner-run, we don't do enough to tell the stories. I pay a social media company to market us, and they're always asking me for stories. I never have the time to write them because I'm too busy trying to do the intent of being sustainable, and I'm not telling the stories, and it's my biggest weakness. And thank you for holding the session, because you've made me feel incredibly guilty, and I have to take time out to try and do it for the sake of my brand and for the sake of my community. So
I think the biggest disservice you all do is don't talk about yourselves enough. I mean, if you don't do it today, when 30 years ago, you could not get an ad in Times of India or even The Guardian. Today, you don't need all that. You just have to tell your story. And people will figure it out, and then you will draw in the customers. You know, you don't have to sit and decide who will do it. And talking about, you don't need a social person. You need what we call a chronomatographer, who captures your life chronology. Because today on digitally, the content is infinite. You can put like your whole life's reality show online. So this is the story, and then people will connect with you. Then they will say, "Boss, ye kya hai? Kahani kya hai? Who is this?" And you can reach from German to Italy. So that, and even the story that you were talking about, I really resonated with. But that's the story. Don't come here. The story is, don't come and overpopulate. We can cognitively tell each other that don't populate, but people will come. Any other questions? Shilpa, any thoughts? I'll put you.
Ram, we have one here.
You're obviously talking to an audience of the converted.
yes, I know.
I'm thinking of things like the Booking.com survey, which showed that people were fed up with sustainability and the nagging, or they thought it was too late. So my question is, do you think that perhaps we are too negative in the way that we message? So we sort of focus on that negative instead of saying what the positives are, why we might enjoy eating local food because it tastes much better. So are we too negative, and should we be more positive in our communications?
Jump on that? It is a great question, and if I just speak to that, I think one of the most important things that we're constantly told to do in a Six Senses context is to talk about impacts. And I think that kind of cuts through that dilemma, you know, because we're not putting spin, and we're not communicating. We're just stating facts, and we're talking about positive impacts. And I think that's a really great place to start when we want to get the sustainability message out, is talk impact.
The reason behind my question is that I was talking to Italian, had I thought a very good approach to their sustainability. And when I said I was looking for your reports on your website and I couldn't find it, why don't you have it on your sort of head menu? Rooms, facilities, sustainability, so that people can find it. And her answer was, because people are still viewing sustainability in a negative way. I have to say that this was in the Philippines, which is in the bottom 5, I think, They're working on it, and they can only go upwards. But she was quite convinced that sustainability is a negative factor there rather than a positive one. And that's because they write in a negative way.
What's our time check? 6. Okay, I think we have, okay, last word, and because we've got workshops after this.
Watch out.
Thank you. I think the point Loveleen made is an interesting one. The point on capacity planning for a destination. I think that's an extremely important aspect of sustainability. We see most successful destinations tend to become herd mentalities where everybody tends to invest and set up tourism facilities, huge number of tourists flowing, and then things tend to get out of control. I think capacity planning for each destination in terms of resources, manpower, is key to the success of sustainability. A lot of us look at taking the private initiatives to try and be sustainable. We need to realize that we need to have a collaborative approach with the policymakers and the private sector in working in collaboration to try and achieve the goal of having capacity plans and having a policy framework to ensure that there is sustainability. Sustainability will lead and will ensure that most of these destinations remain viable for a sustained period of time. Overcrowding, as mentioned earlier, I think is going to lead to a huge problem. So for all of us, we need to learn from each other in terms of success stories that have happened at a private level. But on a larger scale, I think all of us need to work together and work with the policymakers to ensure that we have enough pressure on the policymakers to ensure that there is a framework for capacity planning. And that is enforced, not only at a local, district, and a state level, but even at a national level.
Thank you. I think we need an IPL for sustainability. I think that will solve everything. Okay, I think, thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. Loved it. Tomorrow we have another session here at 9 o'clock, and again another session at 5. And now we have 3 workshops with 3 stellar individuals. Yeah, and thank you to the panelists, Loveleen, Daleep, and Aaron. Loved it. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ram. Thank you so much.